Hi designers! Today you're going to be starting a new project, which is shoe design. This takes you a little bit further in thinking about how design works in 3 dimensions, beyond just a flat surface like we've worked with most of the year. Your goal for this project is going to be to effectively use the elements of art and principles of design on a 3 dimensional form, and that's a shoe. This is a little bit different from your previous project in that your design has to wrap around a shoe. In your package design, you basically had a number of different flat 2 dimensional designs. If you did a box, you had 6 2 dimensional designs that were just put together into 3 dimensional form. Now you have to think about how is your image, your text, or your pattern going to wrap around your form, since a foot is round, a shoe is round. And so really this comes down to 2 questions. What makes a design effective, and what makes a design ineffective? And the line between those two can be confusing, so I want to give you some examples, but it's really important that you start moving more towards effectively using your elements of art and principles of design, not just using them haphazardly. So let's talk about effective versus ineffective. You know a lot of the words to describe effective design. We have words like unified or harmonious, which means everything's going together. The colors go together, the shapes go together. Everything's working together to create a unified design. Another word we use is balanced. Now, this is one of our principles of design, but you can have a balanced amount of contrast. You can have a balanced amount of variety, and that's part of creating a unified, harmonious design. You'll see that these words go together a lot, but I want you to start using these adjectives to describe designs rather than just saying this design is good, or I like that, or that's sick, or something like that. You really want to be specific and use this design vocabulary. Another word is flow, and that relates to the principle of design of movement. A effective design will move your eye, and it will have flow from one area to another. As you think of a shoe, your eye will flow around the shoe and come back to the places that are supposed to be more emphasized. That could be the toe of the shoe on the top or on the side. An effective design is clean. Now, there is a trend in design right now that's very complex and complicated, but even then you have to balance it with some clean design. You might use simple shapes and flat colors when you're using a lot of shapes in a complex design. There's that great word pop. An effective design will pop. It will pop out at you. It will stand out from all the other designs. And that just goes towards that unified design, that strong design. When everything's working together, everything starts to stand out. Another word that you've heard me use a lot is interesting. You want to give your viewers something to look at, something that makes them cross the room and look at your design and keep looking at your design. On a shoe, if you have a flat color, we can see from across the room, oh, that's a blue shoe, and there's no more reason to continue looking at that design. However, if there's a pattern or there's words or something, we might get up closer to that shoe and look more closely. That would be interesting design. Of course, effective designs are original or creative. You don't just copy what another designer has done. You do something that's a little bit unique, a little bit your own. And that's the tricky line to walk with design, is how to be creative but not weird. And I'll show you some weird examples in just a moment. Finally, design above all has to be functional. It has to work. You can't do something so creative that it can't be worn as a shoe anymore. It doesn't work towards the primary function as design. So now let's take a look at this idea of ineffective. If this is what an effective design is, what's the opposite of that? First of all, we have this word awkward. This is basically things aren't unified. They're not working together. Here's an example. This is not necessarily a bad shoe. It looks pretty comfortable, but there's just something awkward about those reddish dots and that frill that's on the toe. There's just something not quite working here, and so it becomes awkward. Next is clunky, and this really refers to the form, especially of a shoe, but composition can be clunky as well. Crocs are famous for being clunky. They're big, they're boat-like shoes, they make your feet look huge. Now, yes, they're comfortable, so maybe you'd argue that they're functional, but there's something just clunky about their design. Another word is busy. There's just too much going on in the design. You can see in this design, your eye moves kind of erratically because there's so many different colors and sharp lines and contrast that it's too busy. There's not one area of emphasis or an area for your eye to rest. A few more terms here. Another term is over the top. You have this great idea and then you just take it to a level that everybody's like, whoa. These are very patriotic shoes here, but I would say these are over the top. They're overstated. They're too loud and too bold, so that makes the design ineffective. Not that using something like an American flag is ineffective, but the way that this has been used, there's too much texture, there's too much emphasis on these shoes. All that somebody would be looking at is your feet. Again, too much of any one principle of design typically is going to give you an ineffective design. So if you have too much contrast or too much movement, that's really going to create an ineffective design. Here's a shoe that the colors, there's too much bright color, there's too much contrast. It's hard to look at because that red and the green are too bright. Here's a great idea. We've all seen crocodile skin shoes or faux crocodile shoes, but this is too much. I don't want to be seeing the crocodile head on my shoes. And then these are another shoe that was inspired by the teddy bear, but that's too much to have the teddy bear actually coming out of the shoe. Finally, we have boring, and this is the opposite of original or creative. If it's the same as everything else, that's boring design. It's plain. There's not enough going on to keep us interested. We don't even want to look at it. It doesn't grab our attention. It does not pop. Couple more terms, just two more. Another term is disjointed, things that don't go together. There's nothing visually that ties the two together. So here's a high-heeled basketball shoe. And those two ideas just don't go together. Now style-wise, you could be making a statement, you could be going to the game and you want to dress up or something like that. But this design, you'd be doing that for a purpose, for attention, because it's a disjointed design. Here's another design of denim tennis shoes that are also heels, and they have buckles, and they have zippers. This is another example of just too much going on. And finally, an ineffective design is dysfunctional. It doesn't serve the function that it was intended to. Here we have Lady Gaga made these kind of shoes, these hoof type heels, famous, and basically they're dysfunctional. There's no way a normal woman could walk down the street wearing these shoes, so they really can't function as shoes. They're more a prop or something that you would wear just to get attention. And then I thought these were hilarious because both heels and flippers have a certain function, but together they both become completely dysfunctional. There's no way that you could walk in these heels, and there's no way that you could wear those flippers in the water. All right, so your assignment today is going to be to research effective designs with the purpose of looking forward to the shoe that you're going to create. First, you're going to choose a shoe type. So do you want to do high heels? Do you want to do something like trainers, like a basketball shoe, sneakers, slip-ons? Choose a shoe type. That way you're looking at designs all in the same type. Second, you're going to find and save images of 6 effective shoe designs in that type. For each design, write one sentence describing why that design is effective. And I'll show you an example of this in just a moment. Third, you're going to find and save 3 images of ineffective shoe designs in that type. For each design, you're going to describe why that's ineffective. It's just as important to know good design and to be able to identify bad design or ineffective design, because then you know what to stay away from. Then once you have those research images, the fourth thing you're going to do is brainstorm and list 10 possible themes for your shoe design. And then finally, towards the end of class, choose a shoe theme and then describe it, your rough idea, in 2 to 3 sentences. Do this in a Word document and obviously save it with your last name, first name, shoe research in the MediaArt Share Drive. Let me show you what this research should look like. So I've opened up my Word document. Make sure that you put your name and the period, title it shoe research. This just makes it easy for me to know whose work it is and which assignment it is. Please number the different questions here. You can always look back at the video. I'll also have this slide up on screen. And you can see here that I've just copied and pasted different shoe designs that I thought were effective. So if we take a look at this first one, this is a shoe design with 2 different monsters on it, and I think this is an effective shoe design because there's unity between the 2 shoes. There's 2 red monsters, but it's also interesting because the monsters are different. Okay, so just using that terminology that I've introduced to you to explain why you think this is effective. Please do not tell me I like it or it's cool or I really like monsters. That has, your opinions and your preferences have nothing to do with the effective design. Even if you would wear these shoes or not, that doesn't determine whether it's an effective design. I probably wouldn't wear these, or depending on the context, I probably wouldn't wear these monster shoes, but I still think they're an effective design. Here's a very different design, much more unified than this monster example. But this design is effective because the pattern is interesting to look at. There's lots of different shapes. It's also unified with monochromatic blue color scheme. So again, draw on that vocabulary that you know. Look at the color, look at the elements, and determine what is making that an effective design. So you need 6 of these. You also need to find ineffective designs, so ugly shoes. And I found this one that was just bizarre. It's got a cat on one side and a face, a very awkward looking face on the other side. And so I said this design is ineffective because the 2 images are disjointed. The cat face doesn't go with the human face. I don't understand why these 2 things would go together. Here you see a very busy design. It's also a little bit shaky because it's hand done. Very similar design. I think this one is busy and has too much contrast. Here you can see my list of possible shoe themes. Anything from your interest to maybe a cause you care about, something that you think would look cool, a story from your past, where you come from. Any of that can be inspiration for your shoe design. So you can see when I came down here to the bottom, my shoe theme, I plan to use the Kony 2012 as my shoe theme. I will use Joseph Kony's face and the faces of child soldiers with a red and blue color scheme. I might also use a map of Uganda or text like Bible verses on the shoes. Now, that doesn't really give me an idea of what they will look like, but I just want you to describe the rough idea that you have. Your next step is going to be making a sketch, really showing me what the shoe will look like. These 3 resources, the shoe research example, the PowerPoint with the instructions, and this video are available to you under the MediaArt Share Drive under Hamby Resource Files, Shoe Design folder.